Hi students, this is the second week we are entering now for a MOOC on wastewater treatment. Last week we had the first week. I have to say there was a lively discussion on the discussion board, very not only enjoying, it was also rewarding to read that you appreciate the course. But also we found some doubts and some errors discovered by you. We try to correct all these errors as much as possible, although I don't know if we can manage in this series of the MOOC, because sometimes we have to add it in the movies. It's a little bit difficult. From the discussion board I found some very interesting things. It shows the big differences worldwide, how people are connected to public sanitation. Like I mentioned in the MOOC, we are here practically all connected to our sewage systems. But in the large parts of the world this is not the case, and various examples were given from India, from other places in the world where the situation is very much different. And particularly for the latter, there were some questions about cost effectivity. Can this be implemented, what we show in developing countries? Well, this is a discussion that needs careful evaluation. How we have implemented our sanitation sector, it's not necessarily the way we should also implement it in developing countries, because it is quite costly, and maybe much more cost-effective alternatives are available or will be developed. As mentioned before as well in this MOOC, it is the basics. So we believe is if you understand how actually wastewater treatment can be performed, then you can apply these basics to maybe new systems that are more cost effective in the situation where you are. Now we noticed that there were some confusing about numbers, and I have to say all these zeros we have, then sometimes I get confused myself as well. We discussed about the cost of the assets, the cost of a wastewater treatment system in the Netherlands, and we made an estimate of 110 billion euros. That is more or less the cost. So on the screen you saw 100,000 millions, but of course we're talking about billions. So the total value of the assets we have on sewerage and wastewater treatment is about 110 billion euros, and normally up to 2% of such a value is used for operational exploitation costs. In our case that means up to 2 billion euros per year. Now these costs they need to be raised by tax income. And that is quite a challenging task, of course, when this is not the situation in your country. Another confusing number was the amount of death related to waterborne diseases. I made an estimate about 200 people per hour, over 95% of children, and that sums up to a little bit less than 2 million people per year, and certainly not 200 million people, as I saw in the discussion board. Now there was one thing that I would like to highlight more, and that is the confusion there is about when to use the rainwater flow and when to use the dry water flow. Now the sewage treatment plant is, on one hand, it's a hydraulic construction. You have the conveyance pipelines, and then you have the treatment systems. And hydraulics are determining for a large extent the dimensions of the system. Now when we remove all what can settle like sand or with what we can screen out, then we are left over with the soluble components. And these soluble components we need biological treatment. And these volumes are more related to the biological capacity. So a sewage treatment plant, we remove inerts and we remove soluble matter. These inerts, that is generally suspended matter, it's very small to very big, and the solubilized organics, proteins, fats, sugars, these are all solubilized like the inorganic nutrients, and they need to be removed in a so-called biological treatment step. Now, if you talk about your hydraulics and wastewater treatment, then you need to take into consideration the maximum flow such a treatment system will see, which is the rainwater flow, or even the peak flow. Even during the peak flow, this is the maximum hydraulic capacity that a sewage treatment system can accept. So this is very important for the design. Now, when talking about physical units that are dimensioned by the hydraulics do always take the maximum flow and check whether the maximum flow can be accommodated by the treatment units that you design. And in contrast, for the soluble components, then the hydraulics are, of course, they remain important, but they are less important for the capacity. Then we talk about the bioconversion capacity. And that is something that will be dealt with from the next week onwards. Week 3, I believe, yeah. So, now for the first week, you know what is in the sewage, you know what has to be removed from the sewage. We discussed about COD and BOD. I hope this is clear now for all of you. The next step, and that is what we're going to discuss this week, are the physical units. The screens, sand removal, primary clarification. This is called primary treatment. This is the first step of treatment. Now, with these units, these are generally dimensioned based on the hydraulics. So these are physical treatment units. Keep that in mind when preparing your questions, when you're preparing your homework. Keep that in mind that these physical units are dimensioned by the maximum flows. Now, I hope that also the coming week will be enjoying for you, and I hope you again will learn something what we are teaching, and I hope that also the homework will be doable for you. Now, from next week, Mele de Kruik will introduce the week 3, and we will meet later on in the course again. Again, wishing you lots of success. Bye bye.